Hi everybody. We're going to talk about negative expressions today. Negative expressions are sometimes called negations. To put this in context, you start out with this idea that some sentences are considered positive. Here we see some examples like I'm going to the store, the book is old, I did everything I was supposed to do. And some expressions are considered to be negative. In this case, we just made the others negative with I'm not going to the store, the book is not old. I didn't do anything I was supposed to do. By default, in Spanish, verbs are considered positive, and we just say what's happening, like I'm going to the store. It's a positive thing, it's what's going to happen. To make a Spanish verb negative, you have to put a negative word in front of it. That's normally the word no. Like I said, you just put a negative word. Here's some examples of a couple of sentences, one positive and one negative. This idea that I want to go swimming, that's positive. I do want this. I don't want to go swimming, that's a negative sentence. I don't want to do that. So I put the negative word don't in front of the word want in order to make the sentence negative. Some words have positive and negative opposites. So we're going to look at this next slide. There's a list of a few. This is not a definitive complete list. This is just a list of some of the more common ones. An example would be sí, meaning yes, and no, meaning no. So these are opposites, positive, negative opposites. Some others would be siempre and nunca, always and never. Algo and nada, something and nothing. Alguien, someone, nadie, nothing. Alguno, ninguno, some and none. You'll notice those have an asterisk by them. We'll actually talk about that on the final slide. También, also, has a negative opposite, neither. And one that doesn't get used much in English, and honestly not all that much in Spanish as well, is o, which is or, and ni, which is nor. In English, if a sentence starts in the negative, it needs to end in the positive. And here's an example, I didn't do anything. So because I didn't do, that's a negative expression. I have to say anything. I can't say I didn't do nothing. In Spanish, however, it's the opposite. If you have a sentence or a clause that starts in the negative, that sentence or clause has to end in the negative. Here we see an example, no hice nada. No hice is a negative expression, I didn't do. And because that's a negative expression, then I need to use nada. I can't use algo. It wouldn't make Spanish sense to say I didn't do anything, because if I didn't do, then it couldn't be anything. Couple of more notes about negatives. You can use different negative words in front of the verb. It doesn't have to be no. Here we see a few examples. Yo nunca como papas fritas. I never eat French fries. Or nadie va a ir conmigo. Nobody's going to go with me. Or nada es difícil si practicas bastante. Nothing is difficult if you practice enough. For each of these, I was able to use a negative word in front of the verb instead of the word no. If I want to use that negative word later in the sentence, I'm certainly welcome to do that, but I still have to have a negative word in front of the verb. And once again, that's most often no. So here's a couple of examples. Instead of saying nunca como papas fritas, I can say no como papas fritas nunca. Notice there's a no in front of the verb as well as the negative word later. Cannot say ever like I would in English because this phrase or clause started in the negative, no como, and therefore I have to use a negative word to end it, nunca. So here's that final slide, ninguno, just a chance to throw in a couple of words about it. Ninguno has to change to match the gender of what you're talking about. So if what you don't have any of is masculine, it would be ninguno. If what you don't have any of, it would be ninguna if it's feminine. Although alguno can become plural, ninguno doesn't. It's not really going to happen because if you don't have any, you can't have more than one. And then a final little note about this. If ninguno comes before a masculine singular noun, it will drop the O and add an accent over the U. You can see the example down below. No tengo ningún libro. The word libro is masculine and singular, and since ninguno came in front of it, I had to drop the O and add the accent to the U. I hope this helps, and have a great day. Thanks.